In 2015, NRG COSIA launched the Carbon Prize. Actually, it was a $20 million Canadian prize for capturing CO2 and turning it into usable products. Well, a couple of weeks ago, they announced two co-winners, one of which is a Canadian company. And the project used carbon capture technology from a company called Delta Cleantech. So we're going to talk to Jeff Allison from Delta about his technology and where carbon capture is these days, because there's a fair amount of interest in it. So welcome to the interview, Jeff.
Hi, Mark, and thank you so much for having me here today.
Well, look, what role did Delta Cleantech play in this project?
Well, we were among a number of bidders on the project to provide the CO2 from from the power plant that's located behind me, the Shepard Power Plant. We capture the carbon and then we provide it to the 5 X Prize winners. So that was our role in this project.
Right, and now I understand that the technology that you provided is essentially known technology in the oil and gas industry, and you adapted it and improved it as part of this project.
Yeah, our philosophy on CO2 capture was to take a technology that is known, that is commercial, that has been around for many, many years, the post-combustion amine process, and then fundamentally improve it by doing marginal improvements, 5% improvements here and there, and process design improvements, etc. We've taken that technology now over the last 15 years, worked with various EPC contractors that are in the oil patch already, and then built that technology on skids in a factory setting, and then to try to reduce the cost and the efficiency, and also provide a product that we consider to be 100% commercial, on which we're able to provide our corporate warranties and everything else on.
Now, there's been a lot of debate about the cost per ton of CO2 captured with using these kinds of technologies. And I remember interviewing an expert last year who said, you know, the Boundary Dam at Sask Power, for instance, was up over $100, but when it started a few years ago, and then over time they got it down, he thought maybe $40. Does that sound like the range of costs that we're talking about with your technology?
Yes, really the cost of capture really depends on a lot of different factors. Like, for example, you know, how much does it cost you to generate the steam that's required to process the CO2 and process the amines that are involved in it? You know, do you get that steam for free, or do you have to generate it yourself? That's one factor. Do you have availability to other utilities like water for cooling purposes, or do you have to have your own cooling system? So there's a lot of factors, but the range is coming down every year. And when you, it's just like anything, when you build more than one of these particular plants, the cost of capture, you learn different ways to improve the process. Certainly Sask Power has learned lots since they built the first full-scale plant, and some of those improvements have gone into other projects worldwide. And we have also learned as well, you know, we specialize in the smaller CO2 capture plants, but we also go anywhere from 6 tons a day for these demonstration plants like I have behind me here, or up to say 3,000 tons a day for the larger plants that we've done the process design with over in Europe and other places.
Now, I interview companies with new technologies all the time, Jeff. And one of the observations that I've seen the last couple of years is that in a situation like batteries would be one, where the science is more or less settled, then it comes down to engineering. And clever engineers over time will improve efficiencies and lower costs. So it sounds like you're already doing that and have been for the last 15 years. How much more engineering opportunity is there to improve efficiencies and lower costs in carbon capture and storage?
You know, there's always room for improvement, and we're always keeping our eyes open for new technologies that we might be able to incorporate in our process. What's interesting about CO2 capture is that, like you said, the process is well known now and commercial. So what the real challenge now with CO2 capture is what do you do with the CO2 after it's been captured? And that's where the X Prize comes into play, because now there's other ways that you can actually use CO2. You can put it into concrete like the winner did here, or you can do other things like do carbon nanotubes or graphene products or things like ethanol created CO2 that makes a CO2 based vodka, which is kind of interesting. So there's about 4 or 5 different really interesting projects that were there at the X Prize that will hopefully, with this competition now, will make them commercial and allow them to scale up. That also allows us to be able to go to a customer and say, okay, now this is what it's going to cost you to actually capture the carbon, but if you implement it with these other technologies, commercial technologies that can use the CO2, now it's not going to cost you money. It's actually, you're going to be able to make money, because with the reduced amount of carbon taxes you'll have to pay, and the fact that there's other factors like environmental and social governance issues that are saying that, we aren't going to invest in you as an oil company unless you reduce your emissions. So with those pressures and the fact that you can have a commercial use of your CO2, that becomes a winning formula for you to be able to reduce your emissions.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question, Jeff, that's sort of a general philosophical question, if you will, and we'll see how you answer it. But a couple months ago, I wrote an article for Alberta Views magazine in which I argued that Alberta should actually embrace carbon, and it should say, well, look, I mean, this is the way of the future, and we need to do more, in fact, of what this project did, where we say we produce carbon, we're going to capture it, we're going to do things with it, we're going to become really good at decarbonizing our operations, like say oil and gas. And carbon becomes a focus. It's not a liability. You turn that liability into an asset. And so, what do you think of that argument?
I absolutely 100% agree with your philosophy. That's the message that we've been trying to give out, is the fact that we're here to provide emissions reduction solutions, and we can provide a solution for you that we'll provide our warranty behind. With all those other factors that I mentioned earlier, the uses of carbon and other things, this isn't something to be scared about. It's something that you should embrace. And as a result, we've been getting an incredible amount of interest that have come our way over the last few months of all exactly these kinds of inquiries from these large emitters through Alberta, but not only in Alberta, it's also United States, it's in the UK. It's in the UAE and other places that we're attempting to set up representation. The same kind of issues. Can you give us a proposal on how you can help us reduce our emissions, embrace this, and come up with the best solution for us?
Final question, Jeff. Is there an opportunity here for Alberta to become like a carbon capture cluster? Of expertise companies that are developing, in the leading edge of this technology, which then not only is implemented to help the Alberta economy, Canadian economy, but also provide export opportunities of the kind you just described.
That is a great comment, and the X Prize and facility that you see behind me here again is a perfect opportunity for us to put the fundamentals of what an industrial cluster for CO2 capture can look like, and they're planning on continuing to do research at that center even after the X Prize is over. So the University of Calgary is involved in that, and other research organizations. So we're heavily involved in that, and we've designed that plant accordingly so that we can test all different kinds of products there. It's been designed so that we can try different kinds of solvents. We can try different kinds of process design configurations and all those things that you talked about earlier to try to improve the process and reduce the cost. So this is the hub of new ideas in that area, and we look forward to be participating in it.
Jeff, thank you very much for this. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you so much, and we'll keep you informed as to new improvements. If you'd like to get more information on our company, it's at www.deltacleantech.ca.
Great. Thanks, Jeff.